So what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Behind the Grind, where we critique and review your favorite video games. In today's video, we're taking a look at the nominations for the Game Awards 2024, and some very controversial nominations are here, and more importantly, lack thereof. So before we begin, I'd like to ask you to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, as it helps out tremendously, and I greatly appreciate your support. So let's get into this. So the nominations for the Game Awards are in. And just to be clear, before we kick this off, 90% of the vote is cast by a jury and 10% by the actual players. So if you don't know how the Game Awards work, basically they have their own jury of select critics from different media outlets, and they're the ones who nominate the games, and they let us players cast a vote, but our vote isn't always what decides the best game in a certain category. They just take it into consideration, and ultimately the jury makes a decision based on what people have to say. So it's clear that the Game Awards itself is severely disconnected from the actual consumer, as many nominations here feel out of place and many of the games who deserve a spot are nowhere to be found. So I felt like I needed to make a video talking about this, and I just have a lot to say. So let's just get right into the nominations. So as we kick this off, Star Wars Outlaws even existing in the same category as Silent Hill 2 Remake personally is an insult, and it was nominated for Best Action Adventure Game. It doesn't take a genius to know Star Wars Outlaws is extremely hated by the majority of gamers. And of course, critics and reviewers from the likes of IGN praise the game, but those jokers do not properly represent the player base. I swear, if Star Wars Outlaws takes this category from Silent Hill 2 Remake, I will personally be very disappointed, but whatever. Let's get into Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree being nominated for Best RPG, Game Direction, and Game of the Year. It's insulting that the rules were changed this year to specifically allow Shadow of the Erdtree in the Game of the Year category, and we need a designated DLC category to prevent this nonsense. Look, fellas, I'm a huge Elden Ring fan, and I loved Shadow of the Erdtree, but to put it in Best RPG, like the main game itself already won some of these nominations, and to include Game of the Year. And I just don't think that a DLC should be taking a spot in the Game of the Year nomination. Give it to something else. But, alright, whatever. So, Silent Hill 2 not receiving a nomination in Best Game for Impact is also very disappointing. The category explains a thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message. The way they choose these games, I think, is very flawed, because why does the game for Impact need a pro-social meaning or message? In my opinion, Silent Hill 2, while not necessarily pro-anything, delivers a really strong impact on the player and is truly quite the definition of thought-provoking. Silent Hill 2 is a disturbing game to play, and it leaves a strong impact on the player. It has extreme messages like self-harm, you got abuse at home, you got anything and everything like murder, and the underlying themes of the game and the messages that are conveyed in Silent Hill 2, I personally believe that this game should have at least have been nominated in this category. But I have seen on the internet where people are criticizing Best Game for Impact because it's not Best Game for Impact, it's just Best Game for progressive liberal media on the Game Awards. And I think if you're going to have a best game for progressives, just have a category for that specifically. We don't need to hide behind the message of best game for impact, because there's a lot of games out there that have an impact on the player, but not necessarily what they're trying to insinuate here in this category. It's also extremely disappointing to see Stellar Blade in only 2 categories, but it is what it is. I'm glad it was nominated at all, given the outcry over having a hot female protagonist. Me personally, I probably would have put this game in Game of the Year instead of Shadow of the Erdtree, but what are you going to do? I do personally believe Black Myth Wukong is just going to sweep all the categories that it's in, and if it doesn't, then I'm just going to stop watching the Game Awards, and they're going to lose any and all credibility for the future. I'm also glad Space Marine 2 got some nominations, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, it wins Best Action Game. I asked, and I was talking about Space Marine 2 winning Best Action Game, and I think it definitely deserves it. Best Multiplayer, it also got nominated for that, but it's probably going to go to Black Ops 6, just because Space Marine 2, if they're going on the best multiplayer being the Eternal War, if you watch my videos, you definitely know what I'm talking about when it comes to this, and Eternal War just It's nothing compared to Black Ops 6. I don't even play Black Ops 6, but I already know that it's going to take best multiplayer. Pal World didn't even get a nomination here, and I didn't play that either, but I do know that it was very popular. I think that Pal World probably could have gotten a spot in best multiplayer instead of Space Marine 2, just because I know that Pal World was super popular and apparently is a really good fun game to play with your friends. So maybe I'll just have to check it out in the future, but as of this video, I have not played Pal World, so I can't speak much on that, but I do know that it probably deserved a spot in this nomination. And finally, another problem that I have here is the most anticipated game category literally existing just for GTA 6 to win an award in anticipation for the game. And, it doesn't take a genius to know that GTA 6 is going to win that category. They had other games like Death Stranding 2 and Ghost of Yotei on that, but I mean, it just exists to give GTA 6 an award, so that's a pretty rigged category, but whatever. So as we close this out, those are some of my thoughts on the Game Awards, and why I dislike them is because the way they select some of these nominations, it's not necessarily in the gamer's best interest. It's what they think is good. Now, it could also be flawed if they just did the Game Awards based on a popular vote. However, a lot of gamers here are feeling very misrepresented when you have games like Star Wars Outlaws and Dragon Age the Veilguard in some of these nominations. Those games are extremely unpopular when it comes to the player base. So, anyways, as we wrap this up, if you like this video, click that like button down below, subscribe to the channel if you want some more content. I greatly appreciate the support everybody is giving. I'll catch you guys in the next one.